Good afternoon, family. It is March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, 2022. I want to thank you for checking out my video. My name is Jonathan, and I created this channel as a way to record my progress as I work towards my goal of achieving a healthy weight. If you do enjoy my video, make sure you hit the thumbs up. Also, click on the subscribe and the bell icon so you'll get alerted when I go live, which is usually weekdays at 4 p.m. If you'd like to join me in this discussion, you can join me on my live streams. You can also join our Discord. There is a link for that down in the description below. That's just a great place for you guys to introduce yourselves and let me know how you're doing with your diet. Also, down in the description below, there is a link to a Pinterest board. That Pinterest board has a lot of the foods and meals that our family enjoys on our plant-based diet. Today is day 502 of my 3-year challenge to lose 300 pounds. I've used a combination of extended water fasting and a whole food, plant-based, salt, oil, sugar-free diet to lose over 200 pounds. I have about 100 or about 90 pounds now to go, 91 pounds to go to get to my goal. Or is that right? Yes, 91 pounds to go to get to my goal weight. I hope to reach that by the end of this year so that I can maintain my weight loss through 2023. If anybody has any non-scale victories they'd like to share, I'd love to hear your non-scale victories. If you have any on-scale victories, I'd love to hear that. If you're struggling with your diet and you need help, reach out. I mean, that's really the biggest thing I found is just letting other people know what you're planning on doing creates this huge web of accountability, or you can create a web of accountability, but you have to be open and you have to be vocal with people with what you're doing. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the main page here. I hope you all had a good evening last night. I was very happy to have the family back home. They'd been gone for a few days visiting in-laws out of state. So it was great to have everybody come home and get big hugs from everybody. Carrie's checking in saying hello. Hello, Carrie. I hope everything's going great at home today. Let's see. But yeah, everybody got home last night. It was a bit hectic. There were some very tired kids and a very tired wife that showed up at the door. So we didn't do anything super exciting last night, just kind of hung out and tried to relax, I guess, just because, like I said, it was a long few days for them. And by the time it was bedtime, I could tell everybody needed to go to sleep. So, um, food wise, yesterday, I did stop on my way home at Costco and I picked up a few things. I was out of cherry juice and we just started buying this cherry juice from Costco because it's like $7 for a 64-ounce container, and we were spending nearly that much for a cherry juice from Walmart that was half of the volume. So went in to buy that. I ended up giving in to the temptation and buying some dehydrated mango. I forgot the reason why we quit buying the mango, not just because it's easy to overeat the mango, but they did increase the price a bit. So these 2.5 pound bags of mango are nearly $20 now. So I have to make sure that I'm careful with how much of those I eat because not only, like I said, can you overeat them, but it hits the pocketbook a little harder than some of the other things. Also picked up some cashews because we were out of those. For food last night, other than the cashews and the mangoes for snacks, we had chickpea tikka masala, one of our staple meals, always satisfying and not too difficult to whip up. Took a little bit of time, but really isn't that difficult to make. Let's see if didn't have any of this. Yesterday, I mentioned this on my live stream, but I'm going to mention it again today. I was interviewed by a wonderful lady named Charm with the T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies, and that interview went up yesterday. There is a link for that interview down in the description below if anybody wants to watch that interview. I talk a little bit about my history with being overweight and the success that I've had so far on a plant-based diet. Also, down in the description below, there is a link for uh, a support network called Foodways with Chef Dell. It's a program that was developed by Charm and the people at T. Colin Campbell. It's a community that they are growing for people who eat a whole food plant-based life or diet. And it's a great place to get advice or take suggestions, or to give advice, even if you've been doing this for a while. And just it's a community that's kind of put together of people all trying to thrive on a plant-based diet. So if you click on that link, it should take you to the uh, the Mighty Network that where you can get into Foodways with Chef Dell. Also, they're going to be introducing classes through that program. And if you're interested in learning about batch cooking, which can be extremely helpful in eating this way, they are going to be doing some batch cooking classes where the chef actually, I don't know, it looks like it's fine on my end, but I'm not getting any warnings. Carrie says that it was cutting out. If anybody else is having issues with it cutting out, let me know. Uh, but yeah, so they're gonna do some batch cooking stuff where uh the chef is actually going to be doing the batch cooking, and they're going to be kind of long form. It's going to be like a 3-4 hour class, and they're going to send you a shopping list before so that you have all the ingredients on hand and you're able to make these items. And so that is a great resource if you're looking for another community of people with the same kind of goals in mind. I just kind of rushed through everything here so quick. I was trying to see, now I'm getting issues on my end, and I should have probably restarted the router yesterday after I had those issues yesterday, but I did not do. I wanted to talk a little bit today about choosing a plant-based diet over bariatric surgery. And the reason why I want to talk about this, there's a couple reasons, but one of them is that when I started this channel, maybe not wasn't it wasn't something that I expressed outwardly, but internally I kind of knew that this channel and doing um this push to lose weight was kind of a last ditch effort before having to do something like a bariatric surgery or a gastric bypass or a sleeve or something like that. And I really kind of, in thinking about it, was kind of like, I was like a month away from going down this path. Like, if I did the fast and I didn't figure it out after the fast, I had to do something. And if I wasn't able to figure out the diet, then going with something like a gastric bypass was really going to be the option that I would have to go with. And I always kind of had that in the back of my head that I had that as an option. Ever since I was 18, I'd known people generally older than me, but that had gotten the surgery and knew kind of, what you had to do to get the surgery. It isn't just a walk into the doctor and say, I want to have surgery. You do have to jump through some hoops. And that was something that, as I've done this program now, and the way that I did this was that when I started this challenge, I cut out everything. I fasted for 42 days. And so I kind of went cold turkey on everything. And then after that fast, I switched over to a plant based diet. And even a few months after doing this, I kind of had this thought process, and I don't exactly know how to explain it perfect, but I kind of felt like there's a lot that you could do similar to having a gastric bypass surgery, but instead of having the surgery, that you would just fast for that period of time and then switch over to a plant-based diet. Because what happens, I guess, maybe I have to explain this, but if you go to a doctor and want to get surgery, they're going to make you do a bunch of kind of, not a bunch, but they're going to make you do some things to make sure that you qualify for surgery. They may determine uh, to do one type of surgery over another type of surgery based on your eating habits or the issues that you're having or your goals. But kind of one of the common things in any of the programs is that there's a period of time before they do the surgery that you're required to eat a diet in order to make sure that the surgery is successful. And some of the things that they do in these diets, if you look them up, is they have you cut out processed foods and you reduce your caffeine intake and anything that's kind of addictive, so that when you have the surgery, you kind of have already removed those things from your diet. And I actually saw a video today from Dr. Greger that I didn't realize that another part of the reason why they have you do the diet before you have the surgery is because one of the dangers of doing the surgery is that they injure your liver in the process. And people that are overweight generally tend to have an enlarged liver. So they have people go on a special diet so that they can get that liver to shrink down. Because if you can, that way, when they go in to do the surgery, there's less of a chance of them damaging the liver and having to do more, a more invasive surgery at that point. And uh, so you do a diet beforehand, and then you have the surgery, and then if, especially like if you do the bypass, for a couple weeks after you do the surgery, they have you on a clear liquid diet. And you do that clear liquid diet for a couple weeks, and then they let you graduate to eating pureed food, and you do that for a couple weeks, and then you can start doing chopped food, and you can start bringing in regular foods to your diet. But you cannot eat as much. Your stomach is much smaller. And so what happens is that also continues on. You know, you then have a calorie deficit every day because you can't eat as much food. Um, and that continues to cause your weight loss. And one of the things that I had thought of previously was, you know, how great would it be is if you could get people to do that pre diet. And then instead of going in and having surgery, have them fast for a week or a few days, however long you can fast, or do a juice fast. You don't have to do a clear liquid diet. But then after doing that fast or that juicing, then instead of switching over to kind of smaller portions of the crap you used to eat, switching over to a whole food plant based diet. And the video I saw today with Gregor, I'm actually going to pull it up here and watch a segment of it because I thought it was interesting. They actually did a study where they took some people and see if that pops up. I got to put my headphones on so I can hear what he's saying. But I'm gonna go ahead and play this. This is about a study they did. I think I'm in the right spot.
And your fatty liver may shrink by 10%. That's why those awaiting bariatric surgery are put on a diet. Then after surgery, patients are typically placed on an extremely low-calorie liquid diet for weeks. Could their improvement in blood sugars just be from the calorie restriction, rather than some sort of surgical metabolic magic? Researchers decided to put it to the test. At a bariatric surgery clinic at the University of Texas, patients with type 2 diabetes scheduled for gastric bypass volunteered to first undergo an identical period of calorie restriction, but without the surgery. They were placed in the hospital, and put on the same diet they would be on immediately before and after the surgery for 10 days, averaging less than 500 calories a day to mimic the surgical situation. Then the researchers waited a few months so the patients would gain the weight back, and then put them through the actual surgery, matched day to day for the diets they were on before. So same patients, same diets, just with or without the actual surgery. If there was some sort of metabolic benefit to the anatomical rearrangement, they would have done better after the actual surgery. But in some ways, they actually did worse. The calorie restriction alone resulted in similar improvements in blood sugar, pancreatic function, and insulin sensitivity, but several measures of diabetic control improved significantly more without the surgery, so the surgery seemed to put them at a metabolic disadvantage. The calorie restriction works by first mobilizing fat out of the liver. Type 2 diabetes is thought to be caused by fat building up in the liver and then spilling over into the pancreas. Everyone may have a personal fat threshold for the safe storage of excess fat. When that limit is exceeded, fat gets deposited into the liver, where it causes insulin resistance. The liver attempts to offload some of the fat in the form of a fat transport molecule called VLDL, which then gets stuck in the pancreas and can kill off the cells that produce.
Hit the wrong button to stop there. But yeah, so I guess, like he says in the study, that they did a study and they found that the people were really having the same benefits, whether they had surgery or not, just because they ate the diet that they were required to eat in order to go into the surgery, and then the diet that they were required to eat after the surgery. So the surgery itself doesn't really cause any of those benefits in the short term, especially. And so what that also got me looking into was kind of like, what are the dangers of doing the bypass? Like post operation, what kind of issues are you going to come across? And there's a whole host of issues that you're going to come across in doing any of the, either the bypass, the sleeve, or the lap band that's not done as much anymore. But infection and bleeding is a side effect for any of those. The biggest issue that it sounds like that they worry about is leakage, because they are taking parts of your stomach and they're cutting them up and then they're sewing them back together. So they have to make sure that everything is back together perfectly so that you don't have food leaking uh into your body cavity, I guess. Um there's also, anytime you have surgery, and especially with people that are overweight, you have to worry about blood clots. There was pulmonary edema was one of the things you had to worry about. When you do the bypass, you have to worry about ulcers because they can form, I guess, in the areas where they sewed things together. You deal with vomiting. There's a condition called dumping, and that is an intolerance to sugar and fat. So that if you do have uh, processed sugars or large amounts of fat, it causes issues with your digestion. Nausea is common in any of the different types of surgery. Hair loss seems to be a side effect of getting a bypass. And then, specifically with the bypass, you have to worry about having a lack of vitamins because they do reroute your stomach a bit so that you don't have as much of your small intestine absorbing nutrients. So people that have a gastric bypass surgery end up having to take vitamins the rest of their life. And another thing you have to worry about too is a thing called stricture, and that is just where the openings where they sewed things together or get real tight, and they'd have to go in with a device and stretch out those parts of your body or your stomach so you continue to eat. I was watching a video of, I can get out of this now. Um, where a lady was discussing her kind of life post op, and she was happy with the surgery, but there was some things that she had a hard time eating meat. Like, she's now a vegan after doing the surgery because of people that she met after doing the surgery. And she talked about how she had essentially had already cut out most meats from her diet because it was hard for her stomach to break that down because there wasn't the access to the stomach acids, and her digestive system just changed and it made those things more difficult to um, process or put down. And so for me, I'm looking at all of these side effects and all of these issues that can happen because of doing a gastric bypass. And the probably the worst part of it all, though, is that there's not a 100% success rate with these surgeries, especially like the band. They say that within 5 years, 20% of people have to have an additional surgery. Within 10 years, a third of the people have them removed. So those are things that people did, and they went through this invasive process and they anticipated that this was going to be the solution. And then fast forward a few years, 5 years, 10 years, and they are back where they were when they started. And the psychological effect of that failure has just got to be unbelievable because, again, when I went into this, this was my last ditch before doing surgery, which was the last ditch effort. And Carrie says we need Anthony in here with some real life experience. Yes, Anthony has gone through with this. The That psychological effect of failure, though, has got to just be awful with some people. And they talk about that people who do this surgery have a higher instance of depression or uh, suicide because of the failure the uh, from the process. And it's crazy to me because this diet that I am on, uh, for whatever reason, has people would rather go through surgery than eat a whole food plant based diet. And it just boggles my mind. And the crazy thing is that listening to that lady talk about the process and how it ended up causing her to get rid of meats, and how the discomfort of trying to eat meat was easy, it made it easy to get rid of the meat. And now that she doesn't eat meat, she doesn't crave it. And that is something that is probably what people don't understand the most, is that if you eliminate the salt, the oil, and the sugar, the highly processed foods, it sounds like such an impossible task and such a crazy thing to do. But is it that crazy? Is it crazier than going and having somebody reroute your digestive system, or to do a sleeve where they essentially turn your stomach into the size of the shape of a banana, and versus getting, eating low calorie dense foods. And a big part of the reason why the gastric bypass and the sleeves work is because they say, hey, we're going to take the control out of your hands, and you can only have a spoonful of things at a time. And it works great for a little while. And then you have to deal with an issue like with the sleeve, of creating what they call dilation, where you eat too much food and you cause your stomach to kind of get bigger and bigger over time. It takes a long time to cause major issues. So if you're regulating yourself and you're making sure you don't overeat, you don't have to worry about that. But then, there's stories, I think he talks about it in this video, of people that they find a way around that. They start taking candy bars and putting them in blenders so that they can drink the candy bar, and uh just so that they can get uh there. And Carrie says here, yes, that eating all plants is more extreme than going under the knife. Yeah, it's crazy. Um, And me and you might have felt that way different points in our lives. Yeah. I mean, it's the right. I mean, yeah, it's just a wild kind of ride that I've been on here, or figuring out what I'm doing. And um the yeah, I mean, the big thing for me is like the people figure out how to screw it up still. They work really hard to find cheats or find ways to get that food in, or maybe they know they can only eat a spoonful of things at a time, but so they plan accordingly and they spend all day figuring out how to get the highest calorie foods in. And there's a lot of, like, the video I did a couple weeks ago about calorie density. I think that the we yeah, they just, and it's such a weird industry too, because when you go to these gastric doctors, you want them to help you and you want to lose weight. And I'm sure that there's different doctors that recommend different things and they make people go through different processes. But a lot of the money that they make is in doing the surgery. So for them to prescribe to you a plant-based diet, that's great for their patient and that's great for the people that get better because they follow that advice. But the doctor doesn't make any money when he recommends you go on a plant-based diet. He does make a lot of money when he has to arrange a surgery facility and get nurses and get anesthesiologists together and get a whole medical team to do a surgery. There's good money in that. So it's uh tough to take them at their word, I guess, because it's in their best interest to do surgery. It's in their best interest to have people who are failing at dieting so that their option looks better. And I guess my point of all this is that at least choose, or at least give a plant-based diet a chance before you go through surgery. I mean, that's just give it 3 weeks. Do everything you were going to do the surgery, but instead of having surgery, switch to a plant-based diet. Do the 2-3 weeks of eating the chicken and broccoli or whatever they recommend, then nothing but clear liquids for 2 to 3 weeks, and then a plant-based diet. I don't know why people couldn't do that. And I don't see why a doctor wouldn't say that that's okay. I don't know how a doctor could look at you and say, "Hey, I want you to do this diet here for before this. We're going to come in, we're going to do this super surgery on you. We're going to go into your stomach, we're going to cut it out, we're going to reroute all these lines, we're going to stitch it all back together. And then when you get done with that, we're going to have you go on clear liquids for a couple weeks. Then you can have pureed food, then chopped food, and then maybe you'll get to a point where you can enjoy more than a couple spoonfuls of food at a meal." Um, I don't know why they would say that's okay, but if you walked up and said, "Hey, I want to do all of that stuff you were talking about, except for let's cut the surgery out. And instead of eating just a couple spoonfuls, I will eat, mixing bowls full of salad with carrots, corn, and things like that." Um, but there's nobody doing it. There's nobody, I don't know. Maybe there is somebody suggesting it, but I think that something for, and this is a unique thing for, I'm sure that there's people that are lighter that have thought about having bariatric surgeries, but this is definitely for those people that have gotten to the 400, 450, 500 pounds, and you seriously have considered doing the surgery. Just give a plant-based diet a try. You don't have to go through the pre-diet. You don't have to go through the clear liquids for a couple weeks. You don't have to do all that. You can just Throw away all the junk food, start buying good, healthy foods, eat them in their whole form. Don't buy any processed foods and do that for 3 weeks. You're going to see a huge improvement in your life. You're going to see a huge improvement in your health. And I don't know that anybody could eat a plant based diet for 3 weeks and to eat to satisfaction, eat to satiation. Don't eat like a small cup of salad or eat 1,000 calories a day. Eat a full range of foods. Try to get 30 different product, 30 different. Your goal to improve your gut microbiome should be to get as large a variety of things in a week. And the book Fiber Fuel talks about getting 30 different things in your diet every week. Because if you have 30 different things, then you're going to get the broad spectrum of vitamins and nutrients that are required to survive through those things. If you sit there and just eat carrots all day, you're only going to get the nutrients that carrots are heavy in. You're going to start becoming deficient in the nutrients that they don't have a lot of. You need to make sure you're eating a variety of food, and you got to give your body a chance, because like talked about this a while back. One of my, what I would say is one of my lowest points in dieting was back in the mid 2000s. I was up late watching an infomercial, and whatever they were selling caught me well enough that I ordered it. And it was essentially just this bottle of pills. The only thing that they said that these pills, the point of the pills was just to expand in your stomach. So they had no calories to them. They were just like eating cotton balls, essentially, is what it came down to. And I only took them one time. And I realized that I was probably not doing myself any favors putting some sort of cotton balls in my stomach. But my mentality was that if I can just fill up my stomach with with this fiber, this 0 calorie thing, then I wouldn't have room to eat other food, and then my weight would come down. And that's kind of what happens with the gastric bypass, is that instead of putting something in there that fills up that space at 0 calories, they just cut your stomach out, or they bypass it so that you don't have that that same volume of space in your stomach. And now, where I'm looking at my current diet, I'm eating bowls of spinach or these low calorie vegetables, and it's sort of like those cotton balls that I was eating, but at least they have nutritional value to them. My body can process them and break them down and use them for my survival, I guess. And so, anyways, I just saying, give this a shot. It can't hurt to give it a shot for a few weeks. And you might be surprised at the results you get from doing it for a few weeks. And you don't have to be perfect. You got to try to be perfect, but you know, trying to hold yourself to that perfect standard is really not helpful in any way. And it's the reason why a lot of diets fail, is because people hold them to that unrealistic, perfect, you got to be 100% on. But if you're eating a mostly whole food plant-based diet, you're going to see some benefits. Um, so yeah. Anyways, I hope you guys liked my video today. I don't know, it's kind of a huge subject to talk about, gastric bypass, and I could have done 2 weeks worth of research and not had everything to have a good anyways. Um, but I do appreciate you checking out my video. If you haven't already liked the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon. I will see you guys tomorrow for my Friday stream. If you haven't started your diet yet, get started right now. There's no reason to wait. There's nothing coming up that's more important than your health. Nobody ever gets to their goals and says, man, I wish I would have waited. Wish I would have waited till after St. Patty's Day. You know, nobody looks back and says that. They always look back and says, I wish I would have started sooner. Also, guys, don't fall for the two myths of moderation, the myth of moderate consumption and the myth of moderate change. You know, again, that moderate consumption, that's what the whole bypass, that's what they get you on. They figure that if you can surgically stop that overconsumption, so they create this moderation in your body, that it's going to be sustainable. And for some it is, but there are people out there that got the surgery and they lost the weight, but then they found ways to cheat the system, or they stretched things out so they could eat larger portions, and then it went all, they gained all the weight back. Also, the myth of moderate change. I know I said that if you wanted to do the bypass thing here, where you try their diet for a couple weeks and then you fast and then you go to a plant-based diet, that is definitely a moderate change or a slow change, I suppose. But at the end of the day, you're going to succeed when you completely change your diet, not when you still hold on to the little things. I can't give up cheese, or I can't give up, oh, cooking oil, like, it's tough, but once you give up everything, that's when you're going to start seeing the success. Once you start giving up those things that you're allowing to hold you back, that's when you're going to see the big changes in your life. I'm out of here, guys. I will see you tomorrow. And yeah.